Good day, I'm Leandre Samuels with the latest news from the Seventh-day Adventist World Church at this hour. This is AFM News Now. Thank you for tuning in. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is assisting victims of the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan through its global humanitarian arm, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, ADRA. Immediately after the escalation of hostilities in the region on September 27, ADRA offices in both countries were mobilized to supply urgently needed food and supplies to civilians who lost their homes or were forced to flee from the fighting. The recent violence has been described by news agencies as the worst since 1994 in an ongoing conflict over the breakaway region of Nagorno-Karabakh. Heavy artillery fire and missile attacks have destroyed homes, buildings, and infrastructure in the area, according to local authorities. Tens of thousands of people, mostly women and children, have fled from the front lines of Armenia. The Armenian government has provided shelter for many of them in hotels and hostels, while others are staying with relatives, friends, or strangers. According to country director for ADRA in Armenia, Anush Safayan, these displaced people are quickly running out of food, hygiene, supplies, and medicines. Meanwhile, those left behind in the conflict zone are hiding in underground shelters for safety from the frequent shelling and missile attacks. The day after the fighting broke out, Safayan visited the conflict zone to assess the needs and discovered that the most pressing need was food. The following day, volunteers from the local Adventist churches joined with the ADRA team to package 100 bags of food. ADRA staff, along with 3 Adventist pastors, deliver the food packages to families in the area. As reports of shelling continue, despite a ceasefire that took effect on Sabbath, ADRA staff in both countries are preparing for broader aid distribution. Food remains the most urgent need. ADRA will distribute 1,200 food packages containing staples such as flour, rice, beans, and pasta to families affected by the conflict. This aid is especially crucial since ADRA is one of the very few international non-governmental organizations operating in the crisis region, according to ADRA staff in both countries. ADRA Emergency Response Director Mario Oliveira says, ADRA shows compassion to all, regardless of ethnicity, political or religious affiliation, and we are working on both sides of this conflict to lessen the suffering of those affected. Our response is being coordinated amid another major crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in Armenia, where the numbers of COVID-19 infections has been increasing significantly these last days. ADRA has been following strict rules to keep our staff, volunteers, and beneficiaries safe during the distribution events. ADRA is preparing for the possibility of extended fighting and the need for continued emergency relief and recovery assistance. For more information about ADRA's response to the current conflict, visit adra.am or adra.org.az. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in the Philippines has congratulated the 59 Adventist medical doctors who successfully passed the recent physician licensure examination given in March and September by the Professional Regulation Commission of the Philippines. The first part of the examination was given in March before the COVID-19 community quarantine was implemented. In the middle of March, the Philippine government imposed community quarantine orders when the coronavirus entered the country. The PRC subsequently rescheduled the second part of the examination to September. After learning of the postponement of the examination, Charles Van Hill Rakshem posted on his Facebook page, "We have all become friends, bonded by our common beliefs and our worships together for months, while reviewing and preparing to pass the exams, to realize our dreams of becoming licensed doctors, as we encourage each other physically, emotionally, and spiritually throughout the demanding review season. we reminded each other that God's timing is perfect and that all things would work together for good. When the results were released on October 2, Charles found out that he was ranked 6th from the top of the 1,424 others who took the physician licensure examination. The church praises God after learning that out of the 800 who passed the licensure examination, 59 are Seventh-day Adventists. On Sunday, October 11, during the morning session of Annual Council 2020, leaders from the Seventh-day Adventist Church surprised former Ellen G. White Estate Director James Nix by presenting him with a Lifetime Achievement Award and personalized letter etched in glass, honoring his lengthy service to the Adventist Church and Ellen G. White Estate. Nix retired in mid-September. Nix's legacy began in 1972 when he was hired by Loma Linda University to develop the heritage room for the institution, featuring early Adventist history. Nix was perfect for this position because, along with holding a library science degree from Andrews University, he had always had an interest in collecting early manuscripts about the pioneers and interviewing people who knew Ellen White personally. The stories he collected from these interactions became valuable resources later for researchers and church publications. He soon became the director of the project and 2 years later helped to open the Ellen G. White Research Center on campus. In 1981, Nix facilitated the establishment of Adventist Historic Properties Incorporated, now known as Adventist Heritage Ministry. As director, Nix procured several properties in the United States that hold historical significance to the Adventist movement, including Joseph Bates' boyhood home in Fairhaven, Massachusetts, and the William Miller and Hiram Edson farms in New York State, and the historic Adventist village in Battle Creek, Michigan. Nix moved to the main office of the Ellen G. White Estate in 1993 and became the director of the estate in 2000. Under his leadership, 11 Ellen G. White Research Centers have been established around the world. These centers are designed to provide access to the complete works of Ellen White and a great number of resources about her ministry, her writings, her life, and the wider history of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Nix's most recent contribution was the development of the Ellen G. White Visitors Center at the world headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Silver Spring. Vice Director of the White Estate and longtime colleague of Nix, Tim Poirier, says, "No private individual has collected more Adventist memorabilia and historical artifacts than Elder Nix. He does not collect them merely out of personal interest, but as aids to tell the story of God's leading and teaching in the Adventist movement. That perspective, thinking about eternal ramifications, is the philosophy behind his leadership at Adventist Heritage Ministries, and more recently, what to say and display in the Ellen G. White Visitor Center at the church's world headquarters." Nix, a consummate storyteller, has authored and contributed to several books on Adventist pioneers, including Our Early Adventists Sing, Laughter and Tears of the Pioneers, and In the Footsteps of the Pioneers. Many have participated in hymn sing-alongs led by Nix as he blended history and song, telling stories of the pioneers as he introduced each early Adventist hymn. Associate Director of the White Estate, Alberto Tim, shares that two of Jim's basic characteristics are honesty and commitment. With a frugal lifestyle, he always sought to save as much of his travel budget as possible for God's cause. He spared no effort in favor of the mission entrusted to him. I had the privilege of traveling with him on many international trips around the world. I've been much impressed by the coherence between what he preaches and what he lives. When presenting Nix with a Lifetime Achievement Award and letter through Nix's wife, Mindy, President of the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Ted N.C. Wilson, thanked Nix for his valuable contribution to the Adventist Church over the years. Merlin Burt stepped into the role of director of the Ellen G. White Estate upon Nix's retirement. Burt formerly served as director of the Center for Adventist Research and as a professor of church history for the Seventh-day Adventist Theological Seminary at Andrews University in Michigan. And finally, this week, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Inter-America celebrated the culmination of this year's certification training program for local district pastors across the territory on October 21, 2020. The annual event is part of a comprehensive certification program to better equip pastors as they minister in more than 23,000 churches and congregations throughout the fast-growing territory. Ministerial Association Secretary for the Church in Inter-America, Pastor Josny Rodriguez, says, "This year again, more than 3,100 district pastors across Inter-America have completed 20 hours of certification program set out by the Adventist Church's World Ministerial Association as part of continuing education for them. That's equivalent to 2.5 professional credit hours. The 2-hour online event will highlight the success of the certification programs held across Inter-America's countries and islands, the dedicated work and mission of the pastoral family, and will feature guests from the Adventist World Church and division leaders. The program falls on a month where church organizations across the territory are taking time to honor and appreciate the ministry of their pastor and his family." Pastor Rodriguez said, "Most of our pastors have 2, 5, 12, or even 20 congregations they lead, and it's a good moment to show appreciation for their leadership and commitment to the mission of the church." Stay tuned. Hope Now is next. A global pandemic, crime, war and violence, natural disasters. You may wonder, how can you have peace in the midst of the chaos that characterizes our present dimension? How can you have the assurance that God still cares? Here's God's message to you. The God who made you in the first place, Jacob. Don't be afraid, I've redeemed you. I've called your name, you're mine. When you're in over your head, I'll be with you. When you're in rough waters, you will not go down. When you're between a rock and a hard place, it won't be a dead end. Because I am God, your personal God, your Savior. I paid a huge price for you. I'd sell off the whole world to get you back. Trade the creation just for you. This was Hope Now. You can have hope today. Don't ever give up. And that's the news. This week's top story: ADRA aids in Azerbaijan and Armenia crises. We encourage you to subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment and a like, and don't forget to share. On behalf of all of us here at Advent Flame Media, I am Leondre Samuels. Thank you for tuning in. This has been AFM News Now.